Hello everyone, and thank you for withstanding the rain today. I have actually a little movie clip which was partly made by AI to start my presentation. So let's see whether it works. Yes.
When you envision superheroes, who comes to mind? Is it the ones with fantastical powers? Or perhaps the human heroes we idolize? Our sports stars, Hollywood icons and influencers living lavish lives. But let's pause and ask ourselves, do they leave our planet better off? Fortunately, there exists a different kind of superheroes in service of all that is alive. Introducing whales. Their superpower, cooling the climate. Mushrooms, their superpower, making rain. And termites using their powers to green the desert. And the incredible part, they are real, devoid of costumes or followers, yet truly awe-inspiring. Their actions leave the planet healthier, wealthier and more vibrant than ever before. Embrace and support our planet's true superheroes. They are the real heroes with genuine superpowers.
Okay, so it worked. I'm here today to talk about real heroes with genuine superpowers. Real superpower is about leaving the planet better off, not worse. It's about regenerating, not degrading. True superheroes are world makers, not world breakers. From the movie clip, you already know that whales cool the climate, that mushrooms make rain. There's a little bit of delay on this thing. That termites green the desert. But did you also know that foxes nurse trees, that forests create rain, that mushrooms mine rocks, that wolves restore ecosystems, that mangroves protect coastlines, that pumas breed beetles, that beavers hold back wildfires, and that plankton create clouds? You might think that these are just exceptions, but they are not. Nature holds more superheroes than the Marvel Studios can imagine. Let's zoom in on a few of these examples. Phytoplankton are tiny microscopic organisms that live only in the upper layer of the water of the oceans. Because this is the only place where they can photosynthesize. These tiny plankton are so mighty that they not only support the complete food web of the oceans, they also draw down billions of tons of carbon from the atmosphere every year and transport it deep into the ocean where it can be stored for centuries. But that's not all. Through this process of photosynthesis, plankton make half of all the oxygen on Earth. So every other breath you take comes from the ocean. And there's more. When the sun burns too hot, plankton creates clouds. So in short, plankton provide the oxygen that give life breath, the rain that waters the plants, and the clouds that shelter the lands. So they are one of Earth's tiniest yet mightiest superheroes. And they need another superhero to keep them alive. Whales are the main caretakers of the phytoplankton. Plankton cannot exist without the whales. So the ocean's greatest actually foster the ocean's tiniest, in a way that supports the vital processes of planet Earth. More whales means more plankton. More plankton means more carbon absorption, more clouds, more reflection, and more cooling. So this is the good news. Whales can help us curb climate change. They are the main caretakers of a healthy biosphere and a healthy atmosphere. A study done by the International Monetary Fund showed that restoring the whale populations to their pre-whaling numbers is one of the most effective climate solutions we have today. A solution that has worked for millions of years and does not have nasty side effects like a lot of man-made technologies have. And it's not only in the oceans that our superheroes do their work. Science shows that termite bioengineering prevents desertification, and it makes the land more resilient to climate change. These tiny insects, with a brain no bigger than a grain of sand, store nutrients, moisture, and seeds inside their termite mounds, the high rises of the insect world. In doing so, they create little oases that can sustain vegetation with less rain than environment without termites. So, termites green the desert. Their life generates more life, just like the whales. And it's not only animals from the plant and kingdom. Oh, wait, something weird happening here. Let's go back. It's not only species from the animal and plant kingdoms that leave the world better off. Fungi do this too. From science, we now know that mushrooms make rain. Each year, millions of tons of spores, which are the seeds of the mushrooms, travel up into the atmosphere, where they trigger a process of cloud condensation. This process helps raindrops form. So moist-loving fungi create the rain for the next generations of fungi to survive. And let me end with one of our local superheroes. Despite almost being hunted to extinction, wolves are returning to Flanders, which is a miracle given that Flanders is the least forested and most densely populated area of the whole of Europe. That the wolves return is good news, because the wolf's superpower is to restore degraded ecosystems. Because although a predator, wolves give much more life than they take. Their activities leave the ecosystem richer, stronger, and more resilient for the future. So wolves heal damaged ecosystems. They bring back life. They promote biodiversity or species richness in a much more sophisticated way than we humans can do. Their life creates more life. These stories illustrate that there is an intelligence behind the success of the natural world. For the life that prevails over millions of years of selection is the life that creates conditions that are conducive to life. Leave the planet better off than you found her. That's the way life works. I call this NI, or natural intelligence, because it represents life's logic behind 3.8 billion years of success on planet Earth. So from a big history perspective, the ground rule, the most basic foundation of life, is that life generates conditions that are beneficial for future life. Biologists call this process regeneration. because it installs a higher ability to survive and thrive. It's about leaving the planet healthier, wealthier, and more alive than before. In other words, regeneration is nature's blueprint for innovation. This matters because even though we humans tend to forget, we share the same purpose as all the rest of life on Earth. Life wants to live. Life wants to stay alive. So here is the good news. We are not alone to heal our broken planet. All these superheroes are here to help us. But we will have to help them first before they can help us. Because we might run out of tomorrows if we do not take better care of our planet's superheroes. For instance, our oceans are facing complete meltdown. Centuries of overexploitation, warming and increasing acidification caused by our emissions, and the continuous influx of waste and toxic substances like microplastics, forever chemical, toxins from agriculture and from our pharmaceutical sector are severely undermining ocean health. We are already seeing the food webs in the ocean collapse. Without radical transformation, this process will be complete in about 10 to 20 years' time. Let that sink in for a minute. We could have a dead ocean in 10 to 20 years' time from now. That will mean it's game over for life on Earth. Because if the food webs in the ocean collapse, this will spill over onto land. Not only because an important food source of us vanishes, but also because our oxygen production will falter. And we're seeing the same on the land. The last 50 years, we lost 70% of all terrestrial wildlife. Each year, we're losing billions of tons of healthy topsoil. So we're stripping the earth from its bountiful abundance, forgetting that it is these superheroes with world-making powers that actually made planet Earth a livable planet. What's worse, we're still influenced by fairy tales from long ago. I call this the Red Riding Hood syndrome, because this fairy story still influences how we look onto wolves today. Just look at the media coverage. Wolves are the bad guys, the demons. But wolves are actually the superheroes, because their superpower is restoring the land. And if they restore the land, that means that they're also restoring our health. So we should celebrate them and protect them and not run them over. So it's time that we shift our stories to stories that support enlivenment instead of detriment and instead of entitlement. It's time that we overcome our cultural conditioning and our business logic and start to create collateral beneficence instead of collateral damage. Businesses have a lot to learn from nature. Did you know that the trade association between fungi and trees is already 400 million years old? It works like this. Trees are sugar daddies that trade their sun-derived sugars for soil-bound nutrients delivered by fungal mineral mamas. This alliance between the trees and the fungi means that together they can access far more resources than they could on their own. But that is not the main thing. Their symbiosis leaves the planet better off. They create collateral beneficence. That is, the trade system that drives forest growth produces the air we breathe, the food we eat, the medicines we need, and the resources we need. Even we humans are a product from the forest. It's where we originated. Evidence of this can still be seen in the fact that forests boost our immune system and promote our health. More than 1,000 scientific studies attest to this. So imagine what we can achieve if we base our economic logic not on the take, make, waste paradigm of today, but on the life-giving capacity of natural intelligence, regenerating environments everywhere we go. So it's time we exterminate toxicity, not biodiversity. And that's not that hard, you know. All chemistry in nature is bio-based, biodegradable, and biocompatible. That is because nature builds with only the green elements of the periodic table. We use all elements, and most of the gray elements are toxic. So if nature succeeds in creating millions and millions of different creatures who all have different abilities, with just these 24 of chemical elements, then surely our chemists and our corporations can do that too. For instance, did you know that spider silk is stronger than Kevlar? Kevlar is the most tough human material we've made. Yet spider silk is stronger, and it's made at room temperature with water and dead flies. Did you know that the sunscreen we use is extremely toxic for life below water? So maybe we can learn from the hippo, who produces its own sunscreen, which is non-toxic, water-resistant, and moisturizing, to produce sunscreen that's not toxic. We have to mine and create a lot of damage to get minerals and metals to make shiny objects. While nature produces beetle bling by using a very intelligent, smart, bio-based microstructure. So it's time we invest in the world makers and divest from all those that don't. It's that simple, really. With every decision you make, you either invest in the problem or in the solution. And yes, some solutions aren't perfect yet. But by taking away the money from the old unsustainable system, you give a clear message that you care, that you do your part. So it's time we make nature great again. It's time that we invest in our own quality of becoming world makers, because we can create a healthy world too. Let me end the session with this, if the slide comes, yes. We can change our mindsets. We can change our habits and our practices. We can change our business models, but what we cannot do is revive a dead planet. What we do now determines the future of life on Earth. So it's time for you to become a superhero too. Thank you.
Yeah. Leen, thank you so much for sharing your story on stage. I think it's maybe the third or fourth time I hear it, but I'm always flabbergasted. One question that pops into my mind is, your story at the same time is so fresh and at the same time so true, so truthful and honest. And I was wondering while I was sitting on my chair, where is regenerative design in terms of education? Is education, our educational systems already embracing it somewhere? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I would say new institutions are embracing it, but our whole academic infrastructure is just very rigid and is not really supporting regenerative development.
Yeah.
Not yet, no.
Not yet, but are there openings or learnings on how we can accelerate this?
So hopefully some of the people here work in universities and can help us bring this kind of knowledge into the universities. But we also have to get it into the boardrooms because time is running out. So we cannot wait for the next generations to change. We have to change right here, right now.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much, Leen,
Thank
for
you.
sharing your story with the crowds.